Ellie was born with a disease called cystic fibrosis. It's a genetic terminal disease that primarily affects the lungs.
What I learned about her is that she looked at that and she kissed it.
Yes, during that time, she spent a lot of time in the hospital, and it was a fight.
Take me through the day that you said goodbye to her.
You don't realize how important hope is. It's really everything, and I realized that when I walked out of that room and there was no more hope.
What does a girl who's dying teaches a mother that's living and that is hoping that never happens?
Well, first of all, we learn that life is hard, and that's okay. She gave me permission to live and to enjoy life, because just because she's not here.
Stacy, thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you for having me.
I want to jump right in because I fell in love with the story of your daughter. So I want you to please introduce us to this amazing human that you had the pleasure to live with, to learn, to know from. Tell me a little bit about Ellie.
So Ellie had an illness. I shouldn't define her by this.
Okay.
But it is important to the story. Ellie was born with a disease called cystic fibrosis. And it's a genetic terminal disease that primarily affects the lungs. And it had a tremendous impact on her life, and it helped shape the person that she became in a good way.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about what was her process? When did she learn about it? How did she dealt with it? Tell me a little bit about that.
So I don't think Ellie ever remembered being told. We raised her just with the knowledge. We were always very open with her about it. And we wanted to educate her so that she could feel comfortable. One of the things that we really tried to do was to help her to understand that it wasn't necessarily all bad. I always told Ellie that there were perks to having cystic fibrosis. It helped you to have a full life, and that's what she did.
So the girl who found out she had cystic fibrosis, what I learned about her is that she looked at that and she kissed it. Rather than running away from it, she embraced it. She made it her own. Tell me a little bit about you witnessing that on her.
Yes, well, she did. She knew that she wasn't going to live a long life. I think that she really knew. I think that she hoped that she did, and she never, lost that hope. But because of that knowledge, she really tried to pack it in and experience life to its fullest, do as much as she could, and enjoy herself. And that was a lot about what I learned with Ellie. It helped us to deal with her situation and her illness and the difficult times that we shared with her.
What does a girl who's dying teaches a mother that's living and that is hoping that never happens?
Well, first of all, we learn that life is hard, and that's okay. Despite it, we could be happy, we could enjoy life, and we did. Ellie had a great sense of humor, and she wanted to be happy. She didn't want to waste her life being sad or upset or down from the situation. And of course, there were times when it was challenging, and she was, but that wasn't where she was coming from.
Say more. How?
She just really tried to enjoy her life. So, for example, we spent a lot of time in hospitals, and she wasn't the type of person that was going, I got to get out of here. I want to go home. I'm miserable. She was there. And so wherever she was, that's where she made her life. And she made the hospital her world. And during the times that she was there, it was the nurses and the doctors. They became her family to a certain extent, and her relationships were very rich because of that.
How did she do that?
She was very engaging, and she was tough, and she wanted to live. And so, especially at the end of her life, she had 2 double lung transplants back to back. And during that time, she spent a lot of time in the hospital, and it was a fight. It was a beautiful fight, a magnificent fight. Ellie gave it all she got, and she did everything that the doctors told her to do. And they became a part of that fight, and we were all a team. And, you know, some of the best times that I ever had with my daughter were in the hospital. We made the best out of it, you know, because she was living, and we needed to enjoy that. We couldn't just, you know, waste our time being miserable and you know, depressed. Like I said, there were times when it was appropriate. You know, we would get bad news sometimes, but she wanted to enjoy her life no matter where she was or what was going on.
Do you remember the moment that became her truth?
It just always was. You know, it just always was. She just wanted to laugh. She had the best laugh. And she had a crazy sense of humor. She had a dark, twisted sense of humor.
Oh, yes. So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So I learned that in her phone,
yes,
she had a very particular song.
Yes.
And that was the question. That is the song by Python, like I'm
Yes.
Not Dead Yet.
Yeah. Yes. When somebody would call, they would play the music from a Monty Python show. I think it was Spamalot. And it said, I am not dead yet. I could dance and I could sing, I am not dead yet. So that was her sense of humor.
She had a very dark sense of humor.
She did. She loved a good death joke.
But do you remember any of those jokes?
She just always, it was on the tip of her tongue. Yeah.
Like, when I found this out, I had to go search the song because I wanted to know the tone and like the message. And I wonder, did she record? That was the question I wanted to ask you. Did she record that song with her voice, or did she play the actual song?
She just played the actual song.
Oh my God. Because I was like, one of the questions that I thought was, when she left, how did you deal with that? Like with her loss and...
Yeah. Well, it was a huge void because she was so big. I mean, I'm sure that for any parent, the loss of a child is a huge void, but it served her. It served her because she needed to be a fighter.
Tell me a little bit more about that. Like, what do you particularly remember that where it backfired on you?
Well, I homeschooled Ellie starting in 7th grade. It was just too demanding for her to be at school. There's a lot of treatments and therapies necessary, and it was just too difficult. And Ellie decided that she didn't want to do any work. And she just wouldn't do any work. And the beginning, I just would yell at her all day to try to get her to do her work. And finally, I just said to her, you want to be stupid? Don't do any work. I can't keep doing this. And it was at that point that she really made it her own. And she was very bright, and she, really accomplished a lot academically.
And she actually gave classes on the philosophy of death.
Yes, she actually, when she was a junior, she wrote a course called The Philosophy of Death and Dying. And then under the supervision of her teacher, she taught the course. You know, Ellie was a deep thinker. and she wanted to understand. And, that helped her to really look at some difficult questions. And I think that she was able to make sense of stuff for herself.
Do you remember some of her philosophy? I wonder if she ever shared that with you, if you had ever encountered that. Did you take that course? I wonder.
I didn't take the course. We had conversations, and she had a strong faith in God. And I know that helped her through a lot of it. But there was so much to Ellie that I enjoyed, lots of different parts of her.
Can you share some of those parts?
Yeah, well, she was soulful. She had a very deep, understanding of her situation, and she understood that it affected other people, and it was important for her to help other people that were going through the same things that she was going through, and to help them with their struggles. She kind of always felt like and in a sense, she kind of mastered a lot of it. And that's not to say that she didn't struggle sometimes, but I don't know, she got it.
What did she master?
Living with a terminal illness, understanding what's important. And like I said, enjoying life is important. While she was here, she made sure that she didn't waste her time.
What did she consider wasting her time?
I think she was just constantly driven to accomplish things and enjoy people and relationships. And she, like I said, she packed it in. She, understood that. I think that she knew she wanted to do something meaningful while she was here. And so she had wonderful relationships and lots of friendships. Lots of people thought that Ellie was their best friend. And that was because she listened and she heard people and she saw people, and she cared.
When I was learning about her, I found out that you guys created her foundation 13 years before her passing.
Yes.
And I think there's a big misunderstanding about, people sometimes can assume, me included originally, that the foundation was born out of grief.
No.
So then tell me, what was what was that foundation found from? What energy was it found from?
When Ellie was born, we went to a support group, and there was a bunch of parents sitting there talking about their child's illness and everything that was going wrong, and it was really negative and it was scary. And my husband and I walked out of there and said, we'll never go back there again. And we became involved in the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation because they were doing something about it. And so we did a lot of fundraising for them. And when Ellie was around 9 years old, she started to get sick and spend a lot of time in the hospitals. And there we met families that were dealing with children with different life-threatening illnesses, and their families were struggling financially because of their child's illness. And so we switched at that point to not work to raise money for the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. They only raised money for research. We wanted to help the families directly so that they could, be with their children and not worry about, the next bill or being evicted. They could just focus on their child's health and be with their child. And
what was Ellie's involvement with it? How was she part of it?
She was the spokesperson. She was the face to the organization. And Ellie had a beautiful singing voice. And we held galas and she spoke and she sang at every gala.
As I was learning more about your daughter, it dawned on me how this young human being had, in my eyes, the way that I interpret her, the way that I received her, was that death was looking at her, and instead of fearing it, she was like, okay, let me hug you.
Mm-hmm.
Let me not fight you. Can we be friends?
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to take this for a ride.
Yeah, and come with me and let me show others how to truly live. That's when I closed my eyes and I was kind of digesting, who is this human? Thinking in my ignorance, oh, a grieving mother created this. That was kind of my original thought. And as I learned more about this, I was so much more fascinated.
Yeah, because she inspired me. And she taught me how to grieve her passing, because she showed me that no matter what's going on, we need to take part in life. We need to enjoy life. We need to find meaning in life. And so when she passed away, it would have been very easy for me to pull the covers over my head. And there were plenty of times that I wanted to. But I had this feeling that she was kind of watching me and that that she would be a little annoyed with me if I went that route. And, so she motivated me to keep moving forward and to start up the foundation again. And I named it for her in her memory. It's Ellie's Army Foundation. And we continue to help families who have children with life-threatening illnesses. And we help them financially so that they could have the same process that we had. Mm-hmm. I'll give you an example. When Ellie was having those double lung transplants, the doctors told her that she had to walk to get well. And it wasn't easy. They had her up and walking the same day that she had the transplants. And one day her surgeon came in and he said to her, I want you to do 30 laps around the floor. And Ellie had done 15 at that point. So he really knew that she wasn't going to be able to do it. He just was trying to motivate her and push her. And he came back the next day and he said, so did you do the 30 laps? And she said, no. And he said, I knew you weren't going to be able to do it. And she said, I did 31.
I remember that story. And here are the dirty socks. You can keep them.
Yeah. And, she taught us, to persevere and to do the best you can and then do a little bit more, to be the best that you could be. And even though things are hard, to keep plugging and to have hope. That was a lot of what Ellie taught. And prior to my having Ellie, I was a social worker. So I have that little bit of, background myself. But when I talk to these parents and these families, I really try to, get the message across so that they could have that hope also. And part of it is providing the financial assistance because they are legitimately facing losing their home or not being able to have electric or food on the table or having to choose one medication or the other. So, we provide that. But it's also how we live, how you live, how to do it. And Ellie, I think, really knew how to do it.
How old was she when did you guys know she was sick when she was born, or how did
yes, the night after she was born, she got sick. And then for the week they were testing for all different things. And then finally they diagnosed her with cystic fibrosis.
How did you feel that night?
I was in shock. I was really, I like literally couldn't hear what the nurse was saying to me, and I was closer to her than I am to you. You know, I was trying to read her lips. It really shook my world.
How did your family absorb that those news?
You know, I mean, everybody handles things differently. You know, some people got it, some people, you know, downplayed it. You know, but we were all in it together. We were all in it together.
Is she your first child?
Yes, she was my first child, and I have a son.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a beautiful act of faith.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we wanted to have a, you know, larger. And Ellie, I had to move down to Virginia for that when we were doing that procedure. And she just tortured me. I mean, I could go on and on with Ellie's stories.
What did she do?
You know, I was getting an internal sonogram, and she starts playing with all of the instruments and machinery and you know, she asked the doctor, you know, what was going on. The doctor explained that it was a camera, and she didn't even care. She just wanted to know how long it was going to be there, because that would give her, like, she wanted to know how much time she had to, like, touch everything and drive me crazy. You know, that was Ellie.
She was just curious, awakened.
She was.
Her father, how did her father take this whole process?
It was very difficult for him. It was very difficult for him. They were very, very close. He, you know, also has a great sense of humor. So, you know, they made each other laugh, and they had a competition going about who could be more inappropriate. And it got really bad sometimes.
Why not?
And ultimately she won.
Oh, yeah, sure.
She won. And he looked at her. It was towards the end of her life, and she said something that was just so vile. And that he looked at her and he said, "You won."
I give up.
Yeah, you won.
Wow. Yeah, because moms and dads, they love their kids, but they love differently, and they take, it's my opinion. I'm not a man to be able to say this, but I think, like, we love differently, and we absorb pain differently, and we express pain differently. So how did your family deal with that?
You know, everybody had their role in the family. You know, like even my son, you know, I was very fortunate. He never complained. He never ever said to me, you know, "Oh, will you do this to Ellie?" or "Ellie gets all this attention." It was like he knew what his role in the family was. And not that he didn't lack attention, but there were obviously a lot of times where Ellie took precedent. And we each had a role.
You guys support each other in different wavelengths.
Yeah.
What were you mentioned there were some times in the hospital where you have the best time. What did that look like?
I remember one time, I know that Ellie loved this. It was Mother's Day, and we woke up, and I was kind of in a bad mood. I wasn't sad that I wasn't home, you know, with Everett, my son, and, you know, that we weren't celebrating. I was just kind of like, you know, annoyed. And Ellie got up and she did her treatments, and there was a period of time where where she wasn't hooked up to IVs or she wasn't getting therapy. There was like a few hours. And so I told the nurses that we were going to go downstairs and to the cafeteria or something. And so we went down. She was still in her pajamas. And I said to her, "Don't look at anybody, just keep walking." And we walked straight to the exit and went into the garage and got into the car, and I broke her out of the hospital. And she was just so happy, you know, and I looked at her, and, like, you know, for that 1 minute, it was like we were doing things our way. You know, it was us against the world, and we were winning in that moment. And, you know, we had some great times in the hospital. Great times.
Escaping the hospital.
We escaped the hospital.
And what happened to her room? What did you guys do with her room?
her room in the house. It's a guest room now.
I hear, obviously I haven't experienced it and I don't want to, dear Lord. When parents, sometimes when they lose their kids, like things stay the same in their bedrooms. And, it's just a way of like, this is how she left it. This is how it's going to be, kind of a thing. But I feel like she gave you permission to move on.
Yeah. And her room still has it. She had gone to France, and she had a beautiful portrait taken, and that hangs in her room. She had a great doll collection, these Madame Alexander dolls. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but we used to be, when we were in the hospital, we would go on like eBay and go into the auctions, and we would wait and like push it at the last minute and see if we won. And so she has a whole cabinet filled with these dolls, and those are still in her room. I mean, she's there, she's there. But then at the same time, people come, we want them to be comfortable. It's not a shrine.
Oh, that's just beautiful. Thank you for sharing. I really appreciate it. To me, like, originally I wanted to talk, definitely the foundation is important and everything, but I feel like her as a human, she has so much more in her, in the essence that she brings, that's like the soul that makes the organization.
It is.
And it is so important that what she stood for, what she stands for, what she represents continues to be the voice, the message.
And she is. She really is.
And I don't know about you or me, but sometimes we're so busy doing that parts of that essence, parts of those conversations, the things that make us human, the things that connect us to, like, why are we doing this? Like, why? Yeah, to help the parents, but like, why? Like, beyond like the deed is like, because there was a human that believed in something bigger, a human that died for this, a human that represented that life has a meaning and that there's purpose, and that you could laugh in the hardest moments, that you can hug with fearlessness, that you could dare to do the unthinkable just because. And sometimes we're just so afraid of living.
I know. Sometimes
we're just so afraid of living that we forget the journey we leave behind. Like, sometimes I feel like when I'm working and my little one comes and she says, "Mommy, can you play with me?" In that moment, like, her playing with me feels not important.
Right.
But the truth is that that's the important part.
That's what's important.
And we miss out on living for real just because we have obligations, we have things to do.
Right. Yeah, we have to make time for that kind of stuff. And, life goes on, and we have to take part in that and do what we have to do. But we need to keep in the back of our mind that, there's a bigger purpose.
Yeah. And so I hope that people resonate with that message of hope and just like dark humor, like what like, yeah. Oh, really? Like, I thought that when you said, "Oh, the doctor told her, oh, I knew you weren't be able to do it," she was gonna be like, "Oh, watch me again." And no, she was just like teasing him, like she was setting him up.
Setting him up. She set him up.
So,
and because of Ellie's relationships, that doctor they become a part of our family. He comes to my house 2 weeks in the summer with his family. They come to our Dirty Socks walk. He was the one that asked her to show him dirty socks to prove that she had been walking. And this year, his son is in college, and he drove down to help us with the event. And it's it's just an example of how this was her world. And she made it special for everybody.
She continues to make it special.
I think so. And we, try to keep her. Look, for me, I think that when a parent loses a child, It's very important that to keep your child alive in a sense. So in a selfish way, it makes me feel good that, it's not like, she died and she's gone. She continues on. But she's the one that has perpetuated it, just because of the way that she lived.
Yeah. One time I heard a very wise person say something like, some people learn that loving someone or grieving someone like hard is how much you cry, how much pain you have. The ones who survive it, the ones who actually find happiness again, are those that honor their loved one by acts of service. And those are the people who find joy again, because it must not be easy to lose someone that defines parts of you.
Yeah. And I think that's the challenge in life, is to be able to be happy regardless of what's going on, to not always. I mean, who can be happy all the time? But to strive for it.
What stories come to your heart about some of the families that you've been able to help?
Some of the families have really, touched my heart. I've gone through a lot with them. Some of them have lost their children. And, it's a blessing for me to be able to walk through that process with them. And I understand. And just being able to see, people come to us and they're so desperate and afraid. And to provide that, I'm so grateful to be able to have that opportunity to provide some light for them, help lift some of that desperation and, be able to laugh. When you're in that kind of a situation, it's pretty hard to laugh. It's pretty hard to enjoy the process. But once we can lift that financial pressure, it's hard enough to have a child that's sick, but to have the financial pressure, it's just really too much. So it's just a beautiful thing to be able to see, be involved in that process of being able to lift that and, like allowing them to focus on their child and the time that they do have together.
What are the best lessons? I remember talking to you a while ago, and you shared a story that stood with me, and it was about you were going to an event and something happened to the car or something. Oh. And then you were so mad at her. Yeah. So can you tell me this story? Because I'm like, what lessons has she given you?
That was tough. We were going to see a Broadway show in Manhattan, and I was driving in to the city, and a bus pulled out and hit my car. And so I was standing on the sidewalk with the bus driver waiting for the police to come. And Ellie looked at me and she said, well, there's no reason why both of us should miss the show. And I looked at her and I was like, are you kidding me? You're going to leave me stand? And she did. She was like 13 years old and she went off to the show. And I was so angry. And I was, thinking to myself, what kind of a kid does that to their mother, And then what happened was, after she passed away, I was telling that story to somebody and it hit me. Like she had given me such a gift. It didn't feel like it at the time, but she had given me such a gift because she gave me permission to live and to enjoy life, because just because she's not here, there's no reason why both of us should miss the show. And she would want me to be happy and enjoy life and live it to its fullest. And, that was a gift that Ellie gave me.
And it took you how long to figure it out?
It took me a long time. It took me about 11 years to find out.
It's just the magic of perspective.
Yeah.
At that moment, it felt like what a brat.
Oh, I was furious.
But then when you look at it from the other lens of like
The bigger picture.
Yeah. In reality, like, why should, like, what good would it have been for both of you to stay there?
Yeah. Yeah.
She just said, it's okay to disappoint people sometimes.
Yeah.
And went through it. Like, there's so many, like, tiny micro lessons.
Yes.
That at that moment.
Yeah.
Did not feel very pleasant,
No.
or it did not make sense.
It didn't. And, there's a part of me that still isn't totally okay with it. But, she was here and she wanted to experience life and live it, Like you said, sometimes it meant disappointing people.
Yeah. So, and that's also okay. It's like you can't be everything for everyone at the same time. And she loved Broadway shows, and she loved.
She wanted to be in musical theater. That she wanted that to be her major in college, but it was too physically taxing. But she loved to sing and act. She was funny. She was a comedic actress, and she was great.
Yeah, I wish you would remember some of her dark jokes, because it's like, why would she say that? Like, one of those things. But she had fun with it.
She did, and she had no problem making somebody feel uncomfortable if they, One time she was in a theater and she was coughing, and that was just part of her illness. It wasn't contagious or anything like that. And a woman kept turning around and giving her dirty looks. And Ellie finally said to her, "It's okay, you don't have to worry. I have a terminal lung disease. You're not going to catch it from me." She just,
But she stood her ground.
Yeah, she always stood her ground.
Total badass. Total badass.
Yeah, she was.
What do you think she would want people to know now, like about the foundation, about what you guys stood for, maybe about someone who may be going through the same things you guys went through? What do you think she would want the message to be?
I think that her message is really consistent. I think it is that, life isn't supposed to be easy. We're here, we have challenges. Sometimes we get a break and we can enjoy it without, those challenges. But we're supposed to enjoy it, and we're supposed to find joy in everything, in the good, the bad. We need to love each other fiercely, because Ellie did that. And I think that that's what she would hope for other people.
I think when I've finished like doing my research about your daughter and like you and everything, like I had tears in my eyes. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be one of those. And I was just so happy that she continues to live on, which is what I feel like you continue to, that legacy of like, what are we going to do about it, Mom? Which is something that she would tell you, that she embraced that, and that she brought a lot of life to the room, and the good and the bad and the ugly came with everything. And that at such a young age, she mastered living.
She did. I think she did. And she inspires me. She inspires the people that work for the foundation. And, I think that that's what, was most important to her. Was I think that she was an example. She helps me every day. I know that the people that come to us, they also watch the video and read about her and learn. And I just am very grateful that I got to be her mother.
That is such a beautiful thing to say.
It's true. I am.
Yeah, you gave birth to an angel that has impacted people when she's here, when she's not here, and families can feel it and experience it. So I want to say thank you. Thank you for bringing hope back to those that may be going through a really hard time. And I wonder if you can take me through the day that you said goodbye to her. Walk me through what it was to still honor her and grieve her. And at the same time, what was born out of that?
So Ellie had those 2 double lung transplants, and she had been doing well after the second one. She was actually discharged from the hospital, went through their rehab program, and she was on her way home back to Miami with her friend. And she got sick in Georgia and had to be ambulanced back to Duke Medical Center, which is where she had her transplants. And she never got out of the hospital. And, like I said, it was a fight, and she was all in, and the doctors were all in. And eventually, there was nothing more that could be done for her. And it wasn't because she didn't try, and it wasn't because the doctors didn't do everything that they could do, and the nurses, everybody. We decided that we were going to take her off of life support. And they did something at Duke that they hadn't done. And they put out a bulletin to tell people that Ellie was going to be taken off of life support the following day. And people, I don't even know how many people came. I know that we put out a box of gloves, and the box had been emptied at least twice, with people coming in to laugh and tell stories about Ellie. And she was sedated, so she wasn't really aware of what was going on, although I like to think that she was. But, there was sadness, but there was also, a lot of funny, stories and stuff that we told. And it was very supportive to my husband and myself. And the next day, we went ahead and, we took her off of life support. And, it's funny. You don't realize how important hope is. It's really everything. And I realized that when I walked out of that room and there was no more hope. And so that lesson, and I feel like, it was just a part of it was just a piece of the whole story of her whole life. And, it stuck with me, and I know that Ellie wanted me to continue to give other families that hope, because they're still in the game, they're still in the game. And that's what we do. Yeah, she just taught me so much. And I think that it's, left an impact. It impacts people that never met her.
Yeah, I fell in love with her. I'm like, okay, another little rebel in this.
Yeah, she'd love you too.
So let me ask you about the foundation. How can people contribute? Is there ways that they can contribute monetarily, non-monetarily? Tell me a little bit about how can people fund this beautiful project to support families with, children that need the support.
Yeah. Well, we have a website. It's elliesarmy.org. And, you have the ability to donate. We just want people to join the Army, Anyway, we have, we just had our big event, our Dirty Socks 5K run and walkathon. We always love to have volunteers. And, just to be a part of it. We encourage students to be involved. We have Ellie's Army clubs at different schools, and that's really meaningful to me because I get to watch children learn about other people's struggles, and it's wonderful to be able to be part of the process of them learning how good it feels to give. And hopefully, you know, encouraging them to be lifelong givers. You know, call us, look us up, call us. We'd love to hear from you.
Let me ask you one more thing before we go on. Leaders with a Mission is born out of a desire to help others find hope, find more consciousness, more awareness. What would you say is your definition of leadership through the eyes of Ellie?
I think that Ellie has helped me to be a leader in our foundation. We have a couple of people that work full time, and I think that what I've learned about leadership is that whole idea of inspiring somebody and being very authentic, being where that person is, you know, enjoying the process, enjoying, you know, being a part of something that's doing good for other people. And I think that she's set the tone for the way that I lead, and and also for the way that the people that are involved in the organization take part in it, if that makes sense.
That does make sense.
Yeah.
There are moments, I'm assuming this, so please correct me if this is the wrong assumption, where you may feel like giving up. Like there's moments where you're just like, what are the things that you lean on to adjust your attitude, or how do you shift from to okay? What do you use?
Yeah, well, it's challenging sometimes, raising money and the work stuff that comes with running a foundation. But I've got her on my shoulder, just looking at me, and I know that I can't give up. I just, just like she didn't give up, I can't give up. I think that she'd strike me with lightning or something.
Oh my God. Well, with her dark humor, I'm sure she would find ways to make you know.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Thank you for taking an interest in her.
No, thank you for birthing such a beautiful human, for creating someone who actually stood for something and found meaning in life from the most, challenging position that one could be put on. Like, you got a timer, like, go live.
Yeah.
And a lot of people that are probably in their 80s maybe have not even found that. And she did.
Yeah, she did.
So thank you, Ellie, for that. Thank you for inspiring, for creating, for being light in the world. And I think that's pretty much what it is. I thought it was going to be crying the entire time. I think I cried at everything yesterday. So thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Beautiful. So if you feel inspired by Ellie's story, please go visit
elliesarmy.org
and contribute. Be light in the world. Thank you so much. See you on the next one.